to them, any young teen who's out in the night is a suspect. Sometimes we really don't know if they're taking photographs for facial recognitions or if they're taking photographs as evidence to issue petty offenses. There is excessive policing of the marginalized, and you are essentially harassing them continuously. And it takes away their basic dignity to live. A few weeks ago, at the end of October, the Hyderabad police was conducting these WhatsApp searches. Their intention, at least what they were claiming, somehow some of the statements that they were making was they're trying to stop people who are coming into certain neighborhoods where traditionally these spots are marked for people who come to go trade in narcotics, right? They can go essentially get ganja there. These are known pockets in the city. So if you were someone who entered this neighborhood and you were looking clueless, so they thought this person could be here to trade in some illicit activity, so there could be a crime. So let's just stop him, check his WhatsApp chats. That was the intention, at least the claimed intention. But what was happening is that they were stopping pretty much everyone. They're stopping any guy who's on a bike. They're stopping people who are auto rickshaw drivers, and they're looking at their phones. Hyderabad has been doing some forms of stop and scan searches. When I say scan, the scan could be of different nature. It could be they will take your fingerprints to try to compare your fingerprints with existing crime scene fingerprints forensics database. They have a digitized database. This was happening since 2015. They were also doing facial recognition scans, so they would stop you, take a photo of you, and try to compare if you are a known criminal who has been, say you were jailed, you were out on parole and you are running, or if there is a crime record on you in some other state. Because we are a city, there is a lot of people who are coming into the city and moving out of the city. Police really can't keep a track of it. So what they have done is all the police networks in India are integrated through something called crime and criminal tracking networks and systems. This is a system that kind of got built after the Bombay attacks, where modernization of police, and you started interlinking all police stations and digitizing all of them. So when I scan someone's photo, if he's a criminal or a past criminal from Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, and he's absconding from these states, the cops will still know it. The problem though is they are doing these stops and scans to every person who looks suspicious, and there are no procedures in place. So to them, any young teen who's out in the night is a suspect. So in 2015, they've launched this thing called Operation Chabutra, where if you're a teen who are out on the streets after 12 p.m., they'll just pick you up to the police station, take your fingerprints. Okay, and if you're not in their database, they'll still detain you till the morning, call your parents up, counsel you, saying that you're not supposed to be in the streets after midnight, and let you go. So these forms of practices of stopping people and asking questions to them has been made routine in Hyderabad. The Hyderabad police does something called cordon and searches, which is a form of military tactic that is known to be widely used in Kashmir by the Indian military and other military agencies around the world, right? Where you cordon off area and you're looking for a terrorist, right? In the West, some cities like New York and London do this, but when they have a gunman, right? Like the normal police force are not equipped to deal with gunmen, so they have to call in the SWAT. So what they do is cordon off an entire area, call in the special ops teams, so that the gunman doesn't escape a neighborhood. But the version that the Hyderabad cops is doing in some parts of the Hyderabad, most of them are low-income neighborhoods, is they'll go knock people's house and ask them their identity details, their driver's license, vehicle registration. And if the vehicle registration documents or any of them are not in order, they'll detain the vehicle. Or if there is an excessive challan, they'll take the vehicle. And they actively collect Aadhaar numbers of everyone. And some of this data goes to UIDAI, like back in 2020 or 2019, the Telangana police asked UIDAI to revoke Aadhaar cards of some 127 people. So there's an active collection of data, there's profiling, excessively start policing only these neighborhoods is essentially targeting the minorities a lot. Okay, and minorities in the sense, it's not just Muslims of Hyderabad, it's also migrants from other states who happen to live in slums across Hyderabad. There is excessive policing of the marginalized, and you are essentially harassing them continuously. And it takes away their basic dignity to live. You're constantly harassing them. And I don't think that's okay. The Hyderabad model is the best model. It's a best practice for CCTVNS practices, facial recognition, fingerprint recognition, all of them. So whatever starts in Hyderabad also gets exported outside Hyderabad. So what we have in Hyderabad right now is Hyderabad e-police, okay, electronic police. And the reason I say this is because they're equipped with so many of these digital systems. The first thing that they do when they stop someone is take a photo, take their fingerprints, use it in their app, try to find out information about this person. And their next course of action depends on what this app gives back, right? So every petty offense is recorded. So they're trying to implement a perfect system of law, but we do know that law tends to ignore the marginalized. We are building a giant tower. Okay, it's actually 2 towers, 24 floors and 16 floors. It's called the Hyderabad Police Command and Control Center, which is just a data center. They have got 40 floors for data centers to start storing all the CCTV footage in Hyderabad, all this data that they're collecting. And we are trending to become an actual surveillance state, and which is what the Amnesty International report, along with Internet Freedom Foundation and Article 19, has been warning us about. So when I speak of cordon searches that takes place in Hyderabad, you can search anybody's houses. You just have to issue a warrant. A magistrate level officer can do that under Section 94 of CRPC, except what's happening at the scale it's happening in Hyderabad. I don't think any court would recognize this as something legitimate, right? And we really are never shown these warrants. And the reason I'm talking about house searches here is because when someone is searching my phone has pretty much everything like my house. It has a lot of photos, it has all the bank details, it has my personal contacts, it has so much of this information, it has my email, all of this, right? So it's compared to a home, an actual place, by the Karnataka High Court in a judgment of a similar case. It's clear that the police do not have the power to this extreme scenarios. But when they have certain FIRs, part of case investigation, they can still come seize your phones and laptops under Section 65B of the Evidence Act. It's just that when they do it, they have to declare that they are seizing your devices, and they have to give you a copy of your device. What do you do as a citizen? Say at the moment when someone's asking your phone, you give it because you don't know what to do at that moment. Let's say after that, can you do something about it? So there is a judgment called Prakash Singh versus Union of India, 2006. It's by the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court recommends every state to form something called police complaint authorities. In Hyderabad, these systems or these authorities were supposed to be set up under the orders of the High Court. The authorities were formed, but they're not functional yet. So I think it's time that people demand some accountability of cops, so that when you do face some form of discrimination, there's something illegal, you can actually at least file a basic complaint. Otherwise, you only have the courts to go to. What the police is saying is that they are continuing to do their traditional forms of policing. But what has happened with digitization here is that the police have gained immense amount of power. It comes to facial recognition, fingerprint recognition, search surveying, there are no formal codes, there are no laws, right? So the police are behaving in whatever way they like, and it's essentially harming people. The facial recognition systems works in two ways. Some of them are integrated with the CCTV cameras, and there is the other component where the facial recognition part is integrated to an app called TS Cop, which is Telangana State Cop, which every police official has in his tab. So whenever they take a photo of someone, they know if this person is in a criminal database or not. This part of stopping people and taking their photos to compare with facial recognition systems is not really legal. It's not authorized in certain way. Also, sometimes we really don't know if they're taking photographs for facial recognitions or if they're taking photographs as evidence to issue petty offenses. Whenever there's a petty offense, they take a photograph. There is something called the Identification of Prisoners Act, which is where when you are declared a convict by the court, your fingerprints, your photos are collected and stored in the criminal justice system. The cops do not have authority to collect your fingerprints unless they are formally investigating something. There is a charge sheet, there is an FIR, there is due process. I think we are definitely going to see more of this across the country. It's already happening across Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Some form of it is already happening in Delhi. The Delhi police are conducting cordon searches. They also have facial recognition tabs where they are clicking photographs of people, trying to identify them with facial recognition. The Punjab police is doing cordon searches. The West Bengal police is also using facial recognition to stop people and take their photographs. And the Indian government, like the MHA itself, is trying to get a national facial recognition system, part of CCTNS that I told you before. Most of these practices are outright illegal. They're not authorized to do it. And to compare an analogy, I can keep my house door open, but the cops are still not allowed to enter my house without a warrant. You can't say that the door was open, I entered it. That's the same case with facial recognition. Just because I'm in the public, you can't say that I've collected your data from all the various public databases, or I've bought this data illegally from one of those suppliers. It may not be the government which is buying it. It could be one of those facial recognition suppliers who is buying it and in turn supplying it to the government. So both are still illegal. And what can citizens do about this? I think it's important that we talk more about it. What's happening is the government is trying to lobby the parliament to give them exemptions, part of the upcoming data protection law, to do all of this, right? Give them powers to collect any data and use any data in terms of national security. But the problem is when you're not defining national security, everything becomes national security. And that's what is happening with WhatsApp chat searches. You're saying we're doing it for drugs, and tomorrow they could be doing it for something else. So the upcoming data protection law won't be enough. India is debating about surveillance reforms, part of the whole Pegasus committee that the Supreme Court has appointed. I think it's about time that you push back, you start questioning your members of parliament and everyone under what authority is the government and the police and any of all of these surveillance agencies in the countries are doing all of this.